Do you ever have a day where it feels like your brain is both frozen and scattered at the exact same time, and your body just feels like riled up, antsy, and also scattered but frozen? That's the kind of day I'm having today. And I'm using extra skills and strategies, the ones I teach, to be able to get myself through this day without shame and being as productive as possible given what's going on. So I got to believe that I'm not alone and this happens to you too, which is why I'm doing this episode. So after this episode, you'll have strategies of what to do when this happens to you. Be sure to listen. Welcome to the Self-Loved ADHD Woman's Way podcast. I'm your host, Jen Barnes. If you're an ADHD woman entrepreneur, ADHD adjacent, or ADHD-ish, you've come to the right place. We'll dive deep into the unique challenges you face, from the inner turmoil to the outer obstacles. We'll blend neuroscience, IFS, and somatic healing, and explore practical strategies to help you navigate the world of entrepreneurship with ADHD with greater ease and effectiveness. I'm glad you're here. Hey, it's Jen. I'm so glad you're here. So today is not my best day. I was so excited to record a podcast about us over functioning high achievers and some of that piece, which I will still do. It may not come till mid-May because I have a cool guest next week if everything goes as planned. But at any rate, today I am having a disorganized, unproductive, unfocused day. Like the worst I've had in a while. And there's a reason for that. But I figured, why not take this opportunity to share what I do when that happens? Because chances are, if you're listening to this, you also have days where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even focus a tiny bit. And how in the heck am I supposed to get anything done? So that's what we're going to dig into today. Today, like I said, I'm usually really productive given that I have ADHD because I have all these amazing tools and strategies, and I do all of the things in my morning self-love ritual that I recommend that helps create nice baseline dopamine and helps your focus and concentration and able to organize tasks. So like I do all the things I recommend. So typically I have pretty productive days given I have ADHD. However, right now I am caring for my nieces who are adolescents. So they have most of their stuff. Like I don't have to remember to, well, kind of have to remember to feed them. But they remember to do things. I don't have to change diapers or anything. But I'm noticing with the extra tasks being outside my routine, staying at their house, except to come back and do some work today here, and just having extra mental load, being concerned about little humans, although they're not super little anymore, they're growing humans. I'm noticing that my brain is just like, WTF, I can't even. So I figured that perhaps some people feel that way all the time. I'm thinking moms out there, but also maybe you're someone like me who has been relatively productive because you've had skills and strategies that work and maybe don't work anymore, or you can't access them or have limited access to them like I do right now. And I want to unpack that and really dig into what's going on. Because I'm going to tell you right now, my brain this morning, before I did some of the things we're going to talk about, was frozen. I stood in my kitchen. I came home this morning after dropping one of my nieces off at school. I stood in my kitchen and was like, what do I do when I'm in here? It's like so crazy, which is where I do my lemon water and my morning little, I don't know, it's not really a shake, but this activated you thing with probiotics and prebiotics and all that. And I feed my cats and I make my coffee. But I just stood there frozen and I would do something and I'd freeze. So maybe you know that. But while my brain felt frozen, it also felt scattered at the same time. So have you ever felt that? Like your brain just freezes, but then it feels scattered. And then I don't know about you, but that made me feel like both antsy in my body, but also kind of frozen. It was super strange. And so I'm just thinking, this is like a teeny tiny taste, not even barely a nibble of perhaps what moms experience with the mental load that you carry. but also many of us with ADHD, when we just have these days where we're not able to access our usual skills and strategies. So one of the things I want to name here is usually I have a routine that I follow. You've heard me talk about my morning self-love ritual. And while there are a lot of ADHD care things in it, there are also things that aren't particularly related to ADHD care that I do in the same order around the same time of day so that my brain kind of knows what to do when I don't have to stop and think about it. That way, I'm not wasting brain power on getting ready in the morning and can use my brain power for the things I want to get done for work and relationships, things like that. So, right now, I'm all off routine because I'm staying at my sister's and then coming here to feed my cats and then going back and going to feeding my cats in the morning tomorrow, going to my office, feeding my cats at night, then going back. It's a lot of this back and forth. And so I don't have access to that consistency that I'm used to that takes away the effort of thinking. And I got to tell you, holy moly, that skill right there helps so much. So if you're not doing that yet, where you have found a way to do things in a certain order, I highly recommend figuring that out. And I know a lot of times I hear, I can't do routines. I'm allergic to routines. Routines suck. Totally get it. Routines can be hard for the ADHD brain, but there's a way to make them more fun or novel or creative so that it doesn't feel boring or that you're trapped in a routine. You can make it flexible and adaptive. But I'm noticing how much that tool works, even though it's not necessarily one that I usually talk about as a tool. But what do we do when this isn't happening? Well, I'm going to tell you this. First, I didn't notice what was happening. I just was super frozen and stuck. And I got to believe that can happen to you too, where you feel frozen and scattered at the same time, but you don't even notice that you are. So the first step was noticing it. And it happened because I was at my productivity power hour in my program Ascend, and I'm leading it, which is a body doubling session that we do. And I was running late. I didn't have the right shirt on. Like, it was an interesting thing. I'm definitely off. I'm hoping they knew I was off. I think they got it. I think it was clear. But I was like, okay, this is not usual Jen. What's going on here? And so as I was trying to push into the tasks I needed to do, start them right away, I was like, oh no, clearly my brain is not focused enough to do that. So I took a step back. And there are many ways that you can start to notice what's going on. Like I noticed, first of all, my behavior was different. I was being kind of weird and silly. And I don't know, it was just awkward. But then other people were laughing. I mean, laughing with me. They were laughing at me, but they're like, oh, okay, Jen. So sometimes what other people say, but just even my energy felt different. And when I went to start a task, I just felt so frozen. So those are some clues that, oh, okay, something is going on right now that I'm not going to really be productive till I figure this out. And it's really understanding that when you're in that space, pushing forward and making yourself do stuff is just not going to work. Because even if you get anything done, it's going to be super inefficiently and you're probably going to make a lot of mistakes because you're just not focused in that place. And so I did that. I pulled back and I noticed that my nervous system was dysregulated. And I was like, oh, well, duh. No wonder I can't focus. I feel super dysregulated. And so I was like, okay, well, I need to regulate my nervous system. So I did a meditative movement, I Am Safe, which is one I teach in my program. And that felt better and I was able to focus. And then I spent some time radically accepting that this is my day today. And I had parts of me that were like, no, we still have all this stuff we need to do, especially because Saturday we're going to be with our nieces and we want to spend that time with them instead of working. That's clearly a whiny part coming up. But that part was so attached to getting so much done today. And I had to acknowledge that might not be the case. Some days we have good days where we get a decent amount done. Then we have better days where we get more done. And then we have our best days where we're just crushing it. And I usually am in the crushing it place. Sometimes I'm in the better place, occasionally in the good place. Today, this was in a good enough place. Like, this doesn't even make that 3-part scale. This is like, okay, this is gonna be a good enough day, and let's just radically accept that whatever we do today, whatever we get done is good enough. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And not that we should really strive for perfection anyway, because we all know that when you strive for perfectionism, then it's never gonna be perfect because that's impossible, and then you just don't put yourself out there. So, but besides that little aside, little ADHD moment there, it doesn't work to make it be perfect or even in the best place when I'm in a good enough place. So I worked on radically accepting that this is the reality. I don't have to like it. I can have parts of me that are mad or upset or freaking out, and I can work with those parts and those feelings and say, it's okay. Of course it's upsetting because I wanted to get all this stuff done. And parts of me feel like I needed to get all this stuff done. And that's normal and acceptable. It's just that the reality is that's not happening today because of the situation. And that's nobody's fault. It's just the reality of the situation. Because I love caring for my nieces. I think it's so special when I get to do that. So the answer isn't to stop doing that, right? It's just to recognize that because I chose to say yes when I was asked, because I love spending time with them and I love helping my sister, that then it means this is just what happened today. So radical acceptance is huge, as is holding myself with compassion and grace. So that when I had to re-look at things when I was setting something up for next month's nervous system challenge, which, by the way, 28-day nervous system challenge in May, but this will probably air in May, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, every month I do a 28-day nervous system regulation challenge. So you too can learn some of the strategies I've used today to help me get more regulated so I can get something done today. But as I was setting things up for the challenge, I was having to do double takes. Wait, how does that work again? And then I'd go to do it and I'm like, wait, what was it again? And I'd have to go back and forth a couple of times. And having compassion for myself, that was the case, really opened the doorway to me trying some other strategies. Because in that moment, there may be a part of you that wants to shame you. Like, you should figure this out. You shouldn't have to go back 2 or 3 times. Or maybe it was like 5 for me, I think, seriously. And that part may say that. And the reality is that's what it is. It's like, okay. And then what I realized by not shaming myself, by holding myself with compassion and saying, this is just how my brain is today, then I was able to access more strategies for when our brains are in this place. So number one, I regulated my nervous system, and I regulated it then. And then as I got more tasks sent to me to keep track of outside of my routine, which is really hard, and I added a sticky note, I added alarms, I added a scheduled text to my niece to help with reminding her because it's helping her remember, right? So I did all those things, but those tasks dysregulated me because I'm like, oh my God, my brain. And it's totally fine. But then I had to re-regulate my nervous system. You can see I've also brought some humor into it because it's like, what else can we do? You can be pissed all day if you want, but what a shitty day that's going to be. It's like, all right, this is just what today is going to look like, which is that radical acceptance as well as self-compassion. So what strategies was I able to use? So I have been regulating every time I notice I'm struggling even more to focus. So I do something to regulate my nervous system. Like I said, I do a meditative movement, but you could do volcano breathing, which I've talked about. Bringing your hands together in front of your heart, inhaling as you come up, exhaling as you bring your arms down around by your side and back to center, and doing that slower than that and several times. You can look outside. You can put a hand to your heart and your belly and notice your breath. There's all kinds of ways to regulate. And yes, it is different depending on if you're shut down or in your fight or flight response. I'm sharing mostly the ones for fight or flight because that's where I am. But the looking outside could definitely be a way to regulate. Even going for a walk around the block, if that's accessible to you, can be a nice option. Today it's raining. Not sure I want to get all wet. So we'll just add to the chaos of the day. I just don't need that. So I did things that would regulate my nervous system, and I keep doing them. I'll probably do it after this podcast before I shoot my YouTube videos for the week. It's just what we do on days like this. I also needed to change my plan for the day. So I had big plans for today. And now I'm like, okay, if I get the challenge, at least the parts that need to be ready this week out, that's fine. I can do the rest of it next week because that stuff isn't needed till the week after. So while I don't like that, it's actually possible to do. So I moved the things that I can move to another day. And then the things that need to be done, my podcast, my YouTube videos, and then some of the challenge things, those are what I'm going to get done today. And that's it. And that's a great plenty. And that's going to be my good enough day. It's like, okay. And sometimes our good enough day isn't even that. And I just also want to make sure I'm getting all my content out because I know I have virtual assistants that rely on that income, that work of helping me. So, but then they're paid for it, right? So I'm like, okay, these are the things that absolutely must be done. And that's one thing that is helping me by remembering that external accountability, which I mean, it's not like they're going to be, it's not that I'm concerned about them being mad. I'm more just concerned they need that income for their families. So that is a motivator. So sometimes if we can think about why we want to do the tasks we want to do, it can help us get motivated. Because remember, when we're dysregulated, the only thing our brain is concerned about is survival. So regulating is part one, but then part two is organizing your day, planning your day in a new way, focusing on the things that really actually have to get done today or else, and finding things that are going to motivate you to do that. And on a frozen scatter day that I'm experiencing today, I needed a little extra accountability to nudge me, which is not something I usually use or need a lot of. I'm one of those people that can respond to inner expectations just as well as I can to outer expectations. Although sometimes I get a little sassy when people from the outside tell me what to do. So there's that. But anyway, that's another strategy is replanning and organizing your day with this in mind. Whether you're going to have a good day, a better day, probably not your best day. Maybe like me today, it's your good enough day. Look at what is good enough for today. Look at what it would be, and then start to peel away the important tasks, starting with the task that is most interesting. That's the mistake I made. I started with the challenge stuff because I was panicking that it wasn't done already. Whoops. But at any rate, I started with that. That was not my best plan. I should have started with doing my podcast like I usually do. So there you go. Start with something that is easy to start with, something that's extra fun for you, that's helps you glide into your day as much as you can. Then I had a lot of details in my head. And one of the things we know with ADHD is we have a compromised working memory. Our working memory is we can't hold as much in it, and we can't manipulate information in our working memory as well. At least most of us can't. So what does that mean? If you take an IQ test, they'll have you remember numbers and manipulate them in your head. Well, I do well on that because I have a math degree. So like I had a lot of practice with it, but generally speaking, taking in information and trying to manipulate it, like looking at all the things I had to do and trying to figure it out in my head was too much. So I got a whiteboard over here and I got all that stuff out because for my challenge, I forgot the order that I have to do all the tasks, the initial setup tasks each month. And I was like sitting there looking at it and I'm like, what? Like I just got like literally that is exactly what was going on in my brain. It just was starts and stops and freezing and starts and stops and freezing. And so I realized I've got to get this out of my brain because my brain can't process this information right now. So if you ever notice that in yourself where it's just not computing, get it out. Use sticky notes on a poster board or on your wall or fridge. So one thing I'll do is I'll write things on a piece of paper and then I'll use a scissors. I'm making not even a good scissors thing, but I'll use a scissors to cut the different pieces of paper, the strips of paper with each task, and then I'll move them around that way. Today, I chose to do my whiteboard, and I just put the tasks so I could move them around that way. So when you're feeling in this place of overwhelm, of frozen but scattered, get it out of your brain because it's just going to take so much energy to compute that information inside that and you don't have as much energy on a day like today for doing things. So you want to save your energy for the things that you can't put on paper or on a whiteboard or sticky notes or whatever. Okay. So that is the main thing I did. But then the other thing, another thing I did as part of this is I put in a lot of reminders, alarms in my phone, and lots of sticky notes to help me remember all of the extra tasks. I remember years ago when I took care of my nieces and I was there, my younger niece. So back then I used to have to remind them to get up out of bed and after their quiet time, let them know it was time to get ready or eat or bus in 10 minutes, bus in 5 minutes, bus in 2 minutes, leave for the bus now, like all that stuff. So I had to put alarms in my phone because I have horrible time blindness. And I remember my niece back then, gosh, my youngest one must have been like 7 or 8, who was like, Aunt JJ, which is what they call me. Aunt JJ, how come you have so many alarms? And I was like, because otherwise you won't make it to school on time. Because it's just how it is, right? Now I don't have to do quite that much reminding because they're older. However, there are some reminders that have to happen. So I put alarms in my phone. When my sister shared some extra tasks to do today for dance and things like that, I immediately did extra alarms on my phone. I made like a sticky note and then I sent a scheduled text to my niece, the younger niece, to be like, hey, remember to bring these 2 things to dance. That'll go out right before she's supposed to leave. So maybe between the 2 of us, we'll figure it out. I don't know. She is 12, so it's not like I'm asking a 7-year-old to do this, just FYI. But using the tools that you have available to scaffold your day when you're in this place. So that's what I've been doing today and continuing to regulate and just making peace with the fact that I'm going to get done what I get done. Lastly, grace. I am having a whole heck of a lot of grace for myself as I go through this day. And that is tricky with ADHD, especially if you have a complex trauma history, because you probably have parts that you'll know this is a problem. Like maybe you have parts that if I were to give you a compliment, you're like, oh no, this lady's crazy. She doesn't know me very well. Right. And so if that's you, having grace for yourself is probably going to be a challenge. That not being able to accept a compliment is super common, especially with people who have complex trauma. But with ADHD, if you were criticized a lot or corrected or given negative commentary, like most ADHD kids, even had to mask so hard so you weren't criticized, you may also be in this place where it's hard to give yourself grace. You might be really hard on yourself. And I would encourage you to work on it because there's going to be days like this. It's just how it's going to go because of how our brains are. Sometimes we're going to have more on our plate. We can't control everything in the world. And now more than ever. But so it's like, okay, how can I give myself some grace for extra things that are coming up, right? All right. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of what to do when you have a day like this. And if you found this helpful, I would love it if you would like, comment, subscribe, or follow whatever you do if you're on YouTube or on your podcast app, whatever, or share it with someone who would also benefit. I would love that. And they might not even have ADHD, but they just might get scattered and frozen a lot. And I'd love that too. If you're not following or subscribed already, please do so. And I don't know if I've got a YouTube channel where I share all kinds of additional content. So if you're loving this, check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com and then /@JenBarnes, right? BARNES, like Barnes and Noble, but not related. And you can check out all the great content there. Make sure you subscribe because when you engage with this content for yourself, you, number one, make it more likely that it will show up for you and you will see it when you need it so I can help you. But then also it shows up more often for other women like us with ADHD. So then we're helping them. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing and sharing, and take care.